Hello, explorers, and welcome to episode 63, where we're going to do a full series recap of everyone's favourite TV series, The Acolyte. Hello, explorers, and what a week of Star Wars we have had. Joining me is a man more reliable and trustworthy than Vanestra Rowe, and biceps to match that of Quimir. It's Jimmy.
Oh, howdy.
How's your week been, mate?
Good. It's always a little bit sad when we hit this point in the summer because I know
Yeah,
it's almost over. So, but other than that, been good. Getting some Star Wars stuff in. Um, my wife and I are going to start her DIY channel. So,
nice.
let's get that jump started. But yeah, been a good week. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy again with work stuff. Got quite a lot of Star Wars stuff done. Obviously, The Acolyte finishing. The socials again, as always, taking off, whether it's for the good or the bad.
Yeah,
Um, and
it's
yeah,
good
it's
on
just
our
been a
end.
good week of Star Wars. Yeah, it's
It's
brilliant on
good
our
on
end.
our
Keep it
end.
coming.
We are not promoting any kind of hate or anything like negative.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But
but
no, it's been good. But yeah, with that, like I said, we've had a massive influx again of new members, and I know it's everybody's favourite time of that show where Jimmy has his time to shine, and there are some
there's
absolute
so
winners in this
many
one.
today.
Here we
All
go.
right. So again, first off, my apologies to everyone. I do not mean to offend anybody. I do take it serious, but I some of these just are killing me. So let's welcome Millennium Workshop, Hasgarth the Brave, Redblade Heathen, Raymond Gonzalez, Guardian Squadron, Robbie Mihao, Fuel 718, Aaron Bullet Train, Nick Barron, Nick Tyrell, Falcor Community, Travis Dixon, Kevin Smets, Sawyer Markham, Padawan Chronicles, Jeremy Bloor, Sonny Stroll, PJ O'Connor, Zach Cipher, Harris Josick, Marcus McIlharney. I don't know what that's not in
Was
English. My
no, we'll
version
skip
or
that. Was a
yours.
Russian, I think. Yeah.
Well, welcome to that person. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you found us. Robbie Still, and it is with great pride and great pleasure that I announce this next one, the only. Commander Taylor Holland is back, baby. So she's
Yep,
back in the
she is
group. We're
back
excited
in
to
the
have
game.
her. We're glad to have the energy, and we'll keep you guys posted with what that means for the podcast moving forward. So, welcome back,
Yeah.
welcome everyone, and welcome back to Taylor. It's good to have you back in the group.
Yes, it is. Thank you as always. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, YouTube, all one word, Explore the Force. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Join us all, Explore the Force, where there's lots of debate going on, discussion, reveals people are finding over the internet. There's so much Star Wars content on all of our social media platforms. So please make sure you get on there. Explore the Force, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay then. Let's head into this week's Force Encounters. Right then, Jimmy, what have you got for us?
I have got a couple.
Oh,
So,
okay.
number one, I'll start off with the positive one. Well, I mean, they're all positive, but I got my first taste of Star Wars Unlimited. Um,
Nice.
my friend Bam, who gifted me some stuff while school was still in session. I finally got around to getting playing it. He we got there, and then we had two listeners and friends of the show, people who have been on the show. Jacob Rudolph, who was nice enough to come into Wichita, and he kind of walked me and Eric Mancia, who's also been on the show quite a few times. We got to play Star Wars Unlimited for the first time. I get the hype. I really enjoyed it. We have plans
Good.
to go again this week to play it again.
Nice.
Um, but what a blast, and I think that it's
Oh
a
yeah.
game I wanted to play with my nephews and Hank and everybody like that, but I wasn't really sure the rules. And now, having played it, I'm pretty excited to be able to bring that to them next time I see them. But that's a lot of fun. Big
Yep.
thanks to BAM and Wizards Alley here in Wichita. Great place. If you're local and you're comic books and you're a nerd and you like tabletop gaming, you got to get into Wizards Alley. You got the okayest pizza in Wichita. You've got some beverages, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, your choice. You can sit there and
Yep.
game and socialize, and the atmosphere is
Nice.
great. Everyone's super nice. And then my next one, uh, so this morning, my wife and I are in these, you can't tell, but we're in these fitness, you can't tell on me. We're in this fitness classes, and I was getting my butt whooped, and I just started chanting, I'm with one with the force. The force is with me. I'm one with the force. The force is with me. I just started focusing on that, trying to rip out some push-ups and some hammer pounds and just, woo.
Nice.
I'm not sure the force was with me, but hey, it's all right. So yeah, but it was, been a fun Star Wars week.
Good.
What about you, Jack? What
Good.
do you got for us?
Yeah, it's been a much better Star Wars week for me. Obviously, the Acolyte ended. We've been very active, lots of good chatter. I got my Star Wars Unlimited stuff. Did a big reveal during the week. If you've
Oh
not
yeah,
seen
that was
that, head over to YouTube. See what cards I pulled. I'm very happy with the cards that I got. Also, on that, I mentioned that I would be doing a bit of a giveaway. So those that are listening, we are going to be doing a bit of a giveaway shortly. I'll chuck out the question there. And it'll run like the same one. And the other forcing count that I've got is I've managed to finish Darth Plagueis book. Absolutely amazing, absolutely in love with the Sith Lord and also Tenebrous.
Oh yeah.
I love how far, I didn't realise how far into the Phantom
Ooh,
Menace and Attack of the Clones it sort of goes into it.
yeah.
So that actually caught me by surprise. I was expecting it to end pretty much when Darth Plagueis, spoiler alert, gets killed by Palpatine. However, that wasn't the case, and you do actually start to understand the power and also the wit and cleverness of Palpatine in that book, don't you?
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful book. James Lacerno, I believe, wrote the book. Um,
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah, the first time I read it, I think I've only read it once. I would love to have time to read it again, but yeah, the way it weaves itself through Phantom
Oh, it's
Menace and Attack of
fantastic.
the Clones, phenomenal. I can see
Yeah.
why. And this is one time that I agree with all the crazies out there. That book needs to be brought in as close to possible as
Yeah.
canon. Like I do agree with
Yeah.
you can't write it any better than that. Like there's no way.
No.
There's no way to do it any better than James Lacerno did with the Plagueis novel. And if you haven't read it,
Hmm.
do yourself a favor, check it out. It is
Yeah.
worth the read. I also got
Yeah.
that Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. Haven't started that yet. I had to
Yeah.
rereading Cataclysm for whatever reason. Um,
Yeah.
so
Nice. What could that be?
I
Awesome.
don't.
So that ends this week's Force Encounters. Let's head over to the news. Okay, first bit of news that we've got then. There's been a leak slash picture on X, basically a leak of the Skeleton Crew poster. Not sure if it's official, so we're not saying it is or it isn't, but it's not confirmed to be official. However, it shows obviously the kids, a robot, and the poster itself was actually found in a hobby store, so it wasn't even
Yeah,
an
Hobby
official
Lobby, I
Disney
think.
store. Yeah, Hobby Lobby. I don't know what that is. That must be an American or Canadian thing,
It's
whatever.
yeah, it's an American store.
Yeah, but yeah, exciting. Skeleton Crew is starting to appear. I am very excited for the promotion side of things at the minute, just to see where it goes. We're going to start doing some more predictions and what we think and have heard so far in the future. But yeah, Skeleton Crew is on the way.
What would you what do you think when do you think we start getting that stuff? Like we don't even have a teaser trailer yet.
No, we've
I've
got
never even
nothing.
seen the footage from I never even seen that footage from Celebration. So, you know,
Yeah,
say it's what coming out this year, holiday season, that's anywhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Christmas.
really. I
Yeah,
can see them dropping this on like Thanksgiving or something to like this is really geared towards kids. Star Wars is for
yeah,
kids, but this one is Amblin. It's talking Goonies and ET and all these other, kid adventures, and little kids are going to see themselves being played out on the screen. They have got to
mm,
land this. So I mean, we're what? We're 4 months out. A teaser trailer here and there. Start doing some poster reveals. That stuff's got to be coming around the corner, right?
it's got to be soon. It has
You
definitely got
think?
to be soon. But I think it's going to
maybe
be
this
around
week,
Christmas time.
maybe this week at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con,
Maybe.
but they don't do as
Yeah.
much at that anymore because all those people have their own like D23s and stuff. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Won't be surprised.
Well, we have some negative news about Star Wars Outlaws. It has been pretty positive up until now, but it's
Hmm.
supposedly you can get across. And I watched something on this yesterday. Jack, you may know a little bit more about it as well, but you can get all the way around the world in 3 to 5 minutes on a speeder. That's
Yeah.
not good.
It's not good at all. It's not good at
That's
all, is it?
oh man,
What it?
if they mess this up, and it's not even going to be about some gamers will be mad about the game, and they'll have
Hmm.
legitimate gripes. But there
Yeah.
have been already some things said about the game and about the character and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
that's
It
just going
won't
to get
help.
blown out of proportion if this game has any kind of flaw. That is
Yeah.
negative to hear though, because I thought we're getting this open world game, you know,
Yeah.
and we'll say that
Yeah.
I'm pretty hyped for this. This kind of dents it a little bit, but again, I'm going to wait and see. What about you, Jack? How do you feel when you
Yeah. It's a Ubisoft game, and with Ubisoft, they've done things like Assassin's Creed, and from the start to where they are at the minute, I think the last one was the Egyptian one. Like the maps are absolutely huge, so I don't understand if this is true, or this might just be a few of the worlds. We don't know how many worlds in this Star Wars Outlaws we're getting. So it could come as a surprise, that some of the main worlds are actually absolutely huge.
Yeah,
Obviously, I know we've got DLCs and everything as well, so I don't know yet.
I've seen a couple. There was an event. Um, and some people we follow on Instagram, and I can't think of the names right now,
Yeah,
YouTubers and stuff, and they got to go to this event. Like the one girl was taking a picture with Humberly, who is the main actress, that they mocap for
yeah, yeah.
this, and the girl seemed very excited about the game. But I mean, that can also
I'm
be that the
excited.
fact that you were just rubbing elbows with everyone who's involved with it too. But um, yeah, I
You
don't know.
might
We'll
get caught up in
see.
the moment.
Yeah, I hope not. I've been looking forward to this game. That'd
Yeah,
be pretty
yeah,
cool.
same.
Just I like the creativity of it, using Nix and all that stuff. But yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
of course we'll have our. I think we're planning on recapping it the week after we get it. So we'll get it on a Friday or whatever, and then we'll recap it
I'll
that.
complete it Saturday.
Yeah. So we'll tell you what we think of the first. Yeah, if you get through it that quickly, that'll be bad.
Yeah.
So some more news too is we got comics. Comics are ending. Um, I'm so far behind in comics I couldn't even tell you. I'm about maybe halfway through
Yeah,
some of
same.
these, but Darth Vader series is ending, which is I mean it's twice as long as the last one. This is going to be
Yeah.
or number 50. The Star
Yep.
Wars series is ending, which is also number 50, and then
Yep.
we've got Ewok series coming, so post Return of the Jedi, I believe, and
Yep.
we just found out. I mean, literally, as we're getting on the air today,
Quite literally.
the new Battle of Jakku comic is coming.
Yep. Yep.
So that's exciting because I wonder if that's going to be a lot of like the aftermath series stuff. Because I wouldn't mind
Hopefully.
seeing that. I still
Yeah,
think
I'm the
that
same.
group of characters um, that are chasing down the Imperials would be an awesome TV show.
Oh,
And then you can
yes.
just do bad guy of the week with one main bad guy they're
Oh,
chasing
yeah.
throughout the season. It doesn't really mess with anything. You don't have to have, but you have hold or Mon Mothma's still around. Like we got this great
Yeah.
actress who's playing Mon Mothma. She could come in and do that, and you could see stuff. Oh, it'd be so cool. But anyways, we got
Yeah.
Insurgency Rising #1. Um, penciled or written by Alex Segura, written or penciled by Leonard Kirk and Stefano Raphael, cover by Phil
Yep.
Nato. It's pretty cool. And
Yep.
then we've got the prequel trilogy set's going to be coming out. That looks beautiful. It's
It
got some
looks
stuff
really good.
like a really like evil looking Count Dooku and then the Queen, and it's got Kenobi and Anakin on there fighting. So that I don't typically get the ones that are the movies or the shows, but I might have to make an exception just for that
Yeah.
cover. And this one is for me. I'm very excited for this. Um, we've got a brand new cover for Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures, a century before the
Yes.
Acolyte. It's called Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone. So if you're up to date, um, well, this is number 2. Sorry, I haven't seen number 1 yet, but this is going to be released on November 13th. We've got a new
Yeah.
Star Wars encyclopedia. So this will be the most up-to-date encyclopedia, given that there's no new stuff out. It has
It won't be
Mando and
that be
the
out of
in
date.
there. Yeah. As soon as they come out, though, they're out of date. It's so
Yeah.
annoying. How many? I mean, if you're a person who collected this stuff from the get-go, you probably have 40 versions of these things. You know.
Could you imagine?
But I'll probably buy this one because it's probably the most up to date, and it has a forward by Rosario Dawson in it, so that'll be cool.
Yeah.
She's really embraced being part of Star Wars. That's
She
awesome.
has.
And then we have Star Wars: The High Republic Edge of Balance Premonition. That one looks like it has a photo. It has Yoda doing some crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And what else we got here? There's a bunch of stuff that's coming out. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
exciting for the comics. I enjoy a
Yeah.
lot of these, and I think that now that
I
those
can't
ones
wait.
are finished, I'll be able to dive into them and finish them up. So,
100%.
but like, 'cause
100%,
we
buddy.
talked about it, I don't remember a while ago. It was a while ago. This might have been last year, like with the Bounty Hunter series and how they all intertwine with one another. And then you had like the
Yeah.
Dark Droid stuff. So there's a lot of reading involved. We've got new
Yeah.
books out. We've got a lot of stuff. So if you like Star Wars, you don't like the shows, that's fine. Dive into some of this material, the comics,
Yeah.
the books. There's lots of stuff out there for you, folks.
Yeah.
If you didn't like the Acolyte or whatever, there's plenty out there for
Get
you to
into the
read.
comics.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting, man. I'm pretty pumped for all this stuff.
Likewise. I can't wait. Awesome. That wraps up then this week's news. Okay, guys, before we jump into the main show, as always, we reached out to you, the listeners, for your comments and your views on the Acolyte, and we have been swamped, is an underword, I think, for that. So we're just going to read a couple out that really did catch our eye. So starting with Nick Jenkinson, he said it's disappointing. That's his main takeaway. He watched most of it through fast forwarding because he found the dialogue revolting, the acting wooden, and the general writing dreadful. Had the directors actually seen any Star Wars? He's questioning apart from the holiday special. He said he gauged Star Wars by how my 7-year-old self would have felt, but let's be honest, it's Star Wars was meant to appeal to, and my 7-year-old self would be in the garden, play with his new Star Wars figures, not watching this Lige. Nothing to get excited about. He thought the lightsaber fights were okay, but you can't judge a series on the saber fights alone. Not enough Star Wars for him. He is afraid. What you got, Jimmy?
Wowzers. All right, Darren Briscoe. Everybody sit back and relax because Darren's got some stuff to say. It ended as it started with moments of utter brilliance and a dose of frustrating clunkiness. McClunky? I've enjoyed watching it and watched as whole without the week-to-week wait. I think it plays better. Some brilliant characters
Yeah.
who sadly seem wasted as plot points. Saul, the Stranger being my favorites. Action scenes were astonishing, and an introduction of Legends lore I really got a kick out of. In the end, the story that could follow this is sadly for this show more interesting than the one we got. Darth Plagueis, hell yeah. I'm more up for what may come now, though. We actually get it? I'm not so sure. I'd rather see it on screen than played out in books and comics, but I fear that may be the case. We got Yoda, which was a bonus, but is Vernestra just going to lie to him too, or is he as deep in the cover as everybody else is? Throwing poor Saul under the bus just to limit the fallout of her own failings has to play on her mind too. Why didn't Saul just blast Basil out to airlock? Yeah, I've got some things to say about Basil a little bit later. There seemed no reason for him being a part of the scurry about the screen and being annoying, other than Yord and Vernestra's lacking. Nobody ever talks to him or really acknowledges he's there. A great design and looks amazing, but redundant. Maybe that sums up a lot, but how the show is. So yeah, he's all over the map, which is
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah. Richard Claydon then, he said, I thought it was okay. The concept was a great idea, but I think it was let down by its execution. I think the script was poor and had a feeling of amateurish delivery by some characters, but in all, I thought it was okay.
All right. Gemma Reed says, I really enjoyed it. I liked how you thought one thing only for it to be revealed later from another character's view to be another thing. Yes, there were some pacing issues and it wasn't my favorite, but I loved the fight scenes and lots of the new characters. Made me sad Carrie was only in it for one episode. Although I loved even in later fights, the almost bullet time type pauses, the Matrix style fighting they had was really fun. So she liked that.
Nice. Next, we've got Adam Isherwood. He said, like the prequels, it was fun but flawed. I enjoyed it because it took Star Wars into new territory, like planets, characters, like George did with every film. Yeah, it suffered from some poor dialogue, but isn't unique for a Star Wars show. Really like the fight scenes, a massive improvement in opinion. And lastly, my kids loved it. I'm looking forward to a season 2 if it happens.
Yeah. All right, Joe Overton Pin. I really enjoyed it. I love the links to stuff like Cortosis and seeing Plagueis in the finale was epic. Whilst the casual viewer may not have got the references, for those who have spent years consuming every piece of Star Wars content, be it film, TV, or books, they were great to see in live action. I don't think it broke canon in any way and find it odd that people are still trying to argue this. I agree with Joe. First, in Return of the Sith, Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, Yoda acknowledged that the prophecy of the Chosen One may have been misread. The origin of the twins does nothing to undermine Anakin and his importance. Anakin had a lack of agency in the direction of his life took. The twins were given a choice. It's crazy to think that other Force users wouldn't discover the power of creating life, but the twins were created for a different purpose than Anakin. The power to procreate through the Force has been seen before with the Dathomir witches. Essentially, the twins were conceived using the Force. Anakin was conceived by the will of the Force itself. Thank you for yes. Great saber fights, great understanding of the motivation of Chimere, not about evil necessarily, but about the desire to wield power in a way that wasn't condoned by the Jedi Order. I love that too. Great setup for the prequels and showing the Jedi was flawed. I'm sick of the woke arguments. In a make-believe universe with potentially millions of aliens, why do a certain section of viewers expect main characters to largely be white men? Embrace the diversity. Star Wars is everyone. Amen, Joe Overton Pin. Woo! She's bringing
Great
it.
comment, Joe. Thank
I
you
love
very
it.
much
Yeah,
for
good job.
that one. Next one I have is from Mark Ward. I didn't judge it too early as I was hoping it would grow like Andor, but it didn't. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was something to watch but not get excited about. The directing was terrible, which led to lines being read with zero conviction or passion. It was like a rehearsal. It had all the right ingredients, but a chef from McDonald's. Oh, what a
I,
burn that is,
I do
really.
appreciate some of the. I like our fan base, our friends, our Facebook page, because people are liking it or disliking it and liking it, but no one's being they're being
Yeah,
funny. I'll give them credit for being
yeah,
funny because they make me laugh, but no one's being repulsive. We haven't had to boot anybody from our groups because of their language or
no,
anything. So I really do appreciate that, everybody. Thank you for keeping it clean and keeping it, you know, what's not the word? Not hostile. What's the word I'm looking for?
friendly.
Yeah, keeping it friendly, man. Like I appreciate that. Darren Thorndick says the Acolyte for me has taken the top spot. Ooh, for
Woohoo!
the worst Star Wars to watch. Oh no,
Uh,
you fooled me. I was bored throughout this series and was relieved when it finished. Some good fight scenes, but the storyline itself was far too weak. One series I won't ever have to watch again. I'm sorry, Darren. First of all, Darren, good job. You fooled me completely. Number
yeah,
two, I'm sorry that's. I am legitimately sorry for people who didn't like it. So
yeah. Yeah. And the last one that we'll read out is probably my favourite one. This is from Simon Brown,
oh,
aka
there it
Big
is.
Fisher Catcher. Loved it. Why? Because I just sat and watched, enjoy stuff without over analysing it. Love from the Sith Mon. Nice,
Yeah,
short, concise, straight to the point. Again, we super appreciate all the comments and all the feedback that we get on all our socials. We do our best to read them all out. Again, guys and girls, thank you very much for listening and participating in the comments. Okay, welcome to the main part of the show. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. It is a scavenger all the way from planet Earth with some amazing cosplays that she's put together. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ceit Ryder.
Hi.
How you doing,
Thank
Kate?
you.
You alright?
Good. Yeah. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're not bad, not bad.
Good, good.
yeah. Long time no see.
I know. Yeah. It's lovely to be back.
Yes.
So, just for the listeners, then, Kate, if you've not already, if they don't already know who you are, where you're from, just give them a quick rundown who you are and where they can find you.
Yeah, totally. Well, they can find me if they want to on Instagram. I'm at One Scavenger's Wardrobe. And my Instagram it's sort of a melting pot. It's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that. There's a lot of Star Wars. It's Star Wars heavy. I will do Star Wars and talk Star Wars all day, every day. But there's
Good.
also like some Disney bounding. There's some
Yeah.
what we call like capital C cosplay, like an official, like, trying to be as detailed as possible, accurate as possible.
Yeah.
But I think I really enjoy the closet cosplays and what you can make with found items or secondhand clothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think the intersection between modern fashion and especially Star Wars style is really interesting. And I also explore that in my own podcast with my friend Billy Maddox. We're at Off the Rack Rebellion. If anyone else is interested in listening to us talk about fabric and cuts of jackets
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pant styles and footwear, yeah. So that's what
Nice.
I do.
Nice.
Thanks.
Awesome. We'll have all the links below in the description for anyone that's listening out there that wants to reach out to Kate and her team. Was it Billy? Was it his name?
Billy, yeah, Billy Maddox.
Billy. Yes. If you guys and girls want to reach out again, they'll all be in the description below for anyone that wants to jump out there and speak to him. Obviously, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us today on the show, as we're going to go through the Acolyte series recap. Highly controversial. I know Jimmy's got loads of questions and load of points that he's keen and eager to go through. So Jimmy, take it away.
All right.
All right. So I want to start out because we everyone should probably know, like, we all kind of are in the same spot really with the show. Like, we're all like, we liked it. It wasn't our favorite, I think, but I want to go back. I want to go back in the way back machine, and I want you to think
Yes.
about the first time that you heard about this show, or the first time you seen the trailer for the show. What were your immediate feelings, your expectations? Because our listeners know Jack has been bouncing off the wall for over a
Yes.
year since we
Yeah.
got
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Kate, when you first heard about this show, what were your immediate first thoughts? Did you have any expectations? And then we'll kind of come back around to that towards the end. So,
Okay. Okay, great. Well, it was after so first of all, I've never been to a celebration, but they announced it at Celebration, right? And that's where
Yeah.
like all the trailers came out. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, where was I? So I'm sure it was through social media, right? And then looking up the clips. I was excited. I mean, I just want more Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that picky. Actually, my husband and I went to see the re-release episode 1 in the theater. And our teen wouldn't go, and I was really bummed. But I was like, "No, no, I've got to go." And I don't love the prequels. Like, I loved them as a kid, but I don't love them now. But I had to go because I was just like, it's a memory. It's an important part of my Star Wars history, whether it's my favorite or not. So I just want more Star Wars, right? Like, I totally recognize that not everything is gonna be my style, but
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they were diving more into a time period prior to the Skywalker family, right? Like that's
Yeah.
huge untapped. Like, I mean, you got centuries, right? Like, so I thought that was interesting. I also was like really hoping for something that was sort of like almost a almost like a Lord of the Rings mashup feeling. Like, I wanted kind of a more medieval feel. And I think we got that. Like, Billy and I
Oh yeah.
just broke down the fashion. Actually, I think our podcast is coming out tonight where we talk about that. And I saw a lot of correlations between like hanging out at the Renaissance Festival and like what you saw in some of the costuming. And I like that. That's where I come from. That's my background. So I enjoyed that. Yeah. So I think I was super curious. I was really excited. Um, but I think there was also so much coming out that I didn't focus as much on it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
fair because we got Ahsoka first, and that kind of stole the.
Yeah. And
So
actually,
yeah,
so
it's a
I
really
still
good
haven't
point.
seen Ahsoka. I
Oh
know.
man,
I know. Okay, let me explain. Let me explain. So Dave Filoni
explain
said,
yourself, young lady.
I know. So Dave Filoni gave us the instructions, watch Rebels first. And I still hadn't seen Rebels
Oh,
because I know. So my teenager is actually my stepson. And he actually watched it before I even came into the picture.
mhm.
And so he and I always had these plans like, I'd love to watch it with you. And he's like, yeah, someday. Well, now he's a teenager that doesn't watch anything with us. And
Mhm.
so that's what I was like, hey, I really want to sit down and like watch this and like before we watch Ahsoka. And then he wasn't even into Ahsoka when it first came out because I think he had a big video game thing with his friends. And I kept being like, well, I'd like to watch it with you. He's still not at the point where he wants to watch it. So I've been catching up on Rebels, which I love now. And I'm bummed I didn't watch it when it first came out. I don't think I owned a television right then. Like, there have been large periods of my life where I
Brilliant.
didn't own any sort of television or anything like that. And I think that was one of them. So yeah, I mean, like there was a lot coming out. There's Ahsoka. I'm a huge fan of Andor. Like Andor
Yes.
changed my life. Like, which is so funny saying that, but
Yes.
it really is what brought me some of my best friends in the whole entire world. Hello, Burgundy Squadron. And so like, you know, like that's really my focus. I love that. And so and because I love like the denizens, I love more of like the on the ground
Yeah.
people, the background. Yeah, okay. So I was like, okay, Jedi, really cool. Totally will always love Jedi, but they're not who I identify with personally. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't as like hanging on every bit of information that came out.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
That's like me
that's
with
fair.
bounty hunters.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
All
Yeah, I
right.
mean,
All right.
that's an acceptable reason not to
There's
have
a
seen it.
method to my madness.
But you will love the costuming, Balin
Yeah.
and Shin and all them. But
Yeah, so
all right,
and then because of social media, I've gotten all the spoilers,
yeah,
unfortunately. I mean, because StarWars.com is really
awesome.
in on
Yeah.
spoilers. So like I have seen all the costumes and all that. So I'll get to them someday. Yeah.
Jack, refresh everybody. How excited were you after Celebration? Because I
Oh
remember
my
you came
god.
out of you saw it before I did because you got
Oh
into
my
the main
god. Oh, that's amazing.
on Friday. You got in. I didn't see it till Saturday or Sunday, I think. But
Yeah.
you were like stoked.
Yeah. I lost my mind. I was in a High Republic panel as it was. And then yeah, Leslie Headland came in, introduced that she was doing it with Vanessa Rose, her wife. A few more people came in. Uh, the crowd was going crazy, and then the panel I was watching it at wasn't the big one where it was like the main stage. We were watching it like I think it was called the Galaxy stage, but it was actually about the books rather than that show.
Okay.
So she come on that with us again, and essentially they put the trailer up, and it was all the lightsabers,
Yeah.
and it was like what?
Yeah.
Like 8 lightsabers. It's just my mind was flashing back to Attack of the Clones in the arena.
Yes.
You know when everyone's fighting. It's like what a scene, and
Yeah.
it just had that ambience to it, that old style lore. Like Kate said, there's no Skywalker stuff, so it's all refreshing. It's a brand new canvas to play with. I was just excited. I love all the old school stuff, even as a kid with the Phantom Menace. Just
Yeah.
old school Star Wars, like you. It reminds me of like medieval times in a way, like Lord of the Rings style as well, because it's so
Yeah.
old, not so much futuristic. But yeah, I instantly lost my mind and I started messaging Jimmy straight away. I was messaging everyone back home and I was like, everyone needs to see what's coming. This is unreal. And
Yeah.
I remember being with my son and just standing up. I don't even know if he stood up, I just grabbed his arm and lifted him like, "Ah!" Yeah. What about you,
Yeah,
Jimmy?
I'm kind of the same way. Had heard about it because it happened. Was it Thursday, Friday? I can't remember what day Celebration
Friday, I
actually.
think.
Friday in the main show, you know, the Sky or Lucasfilm panel. But then I was like, fortunately, being the High Republic person, I got to go in, got to see it, saw a little Force Fu in action, saw Carrie Ann Moss and Mandela, and then the lightsabers, and I was like, what is happening? And
Yeah.
so yeah, the expectations were high. I'm not sure if I had any expectations about the show specifically, like this is what I want to see, because I think that's a
Yeah.
dangerous road to go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
But I will say the expectations were high because I mean you see that kind of stuff, and then
Yeah.
just the build up. I know people don't like Leslie Headland, but if you could get around your dislike for her, the stuff she was saying on the build up to this, I mean, you're
Yeah.
like, this lady knows Star Wars. This lady, she has a good solid background with Russian dolls, and so I got more and more excited, especially after Ahsoka was done, just kind of
Yeah.
like really gearing up for it. So, but again, I had no idea what was going to come. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit. The stories within the story, um, and feel free
There were a
to,
few.
yeah. So quite a few things here. I've got like 5 or 6 written down. If I miss anything or you don't really have much to say about it, that's fine too. But we got to start off with the twins, the sisters, the
Yep.
one person split into two. Like, what is happening? What did you guys think about? And we'll get into like the acting part of it later. So just like we're focusing on the story here, what did you think about Osha and May?
Yeah. Do you want to
Kate,
go
I'll
first,
let you
Phil?
go
Okay.
first. Your guest. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was an interesting background to it, wasn't there, Kate?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so then there's an interesting background, I think, to my reaction is that in the prequels, it always really bugged me that Anakin was just made by the Force. Like this immaculate
And
Jedi conception really drove me
yes,
crazy.
yes, and
But
me.
when they brought it back around to this, and I was like, oh, you mean this witch had as much power as Palpatine? Sweet. I was like, kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I thought it was an interesting concept that they were like, well, why hadn't anybody else tried that? You know?
Yeah,
And I'm sure there's some sort of more detail or whatever, like because there's two of them and somehow she split it, but I thought it was kind of a fascinating concept. So
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. But at the same time, I was confused as hell. Like the
okay.
whole thing with Anakin coming out of, I'm gonna say, thin air.
Yeah.
No one knows who the dad was, etc. I'm like, right, okay, sort of get around that. Then the twins, and then being made from, let's say, magic or the
Mhm.
Force, then getting
Yeah.
split into two, did confuse me a little bit. I did like the background and the lore behind them, though. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
What's your take, Jimmy?
Yeah, I thought as it went on, it got more and more interesting. Um, and we'll talk about some of the pacing and things like that, and some of the issues that we
Mhm.
had there. But overall, I don't understand some of the stuff that happened, but I love the journey that those two went on. I
Yeah.
love the fact that they
Yeah,
completely switched places,
Yes.
um, from where we thought they were at the beginning to where they both end up at the end.
Mhm.
People
yeah,
are bashing this story and bashing this show. Like, there's no storylines. Well, I mean, if you take a look at this right off the bat, these two girls, I mean, their story changes a lot throughout the show. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with them. I mean, I thought it was cool. I have no problem with, you know, some diversity in Star Wars. I think it's a good thing. It's great to
Yeah.
see, like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't understand people being bothered by certain things, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was pretty pumped for it. I'm excited to see, when the season ended. I'm like, I need more. I need to see what happens to May and mostly to
Yeah.
OSHA, because
Right.
again, I didn't really understand the ending of the episode, some of the
Yeah.
decisions
yeah,
made there.
yeah,
But yeah, I was pretty pleased with it. I really thought that their journey was kind of cool, and and how their motivations made them look differently than what they really were at the end. So I was pretty
Yeah.
yeah.
pleased with that.
The
This,
yin
when I
It
and
was
talked
yang.
about it on Saturday, and people disagreed with me on that show, which is fine too. But I really felt like, OSHA to me was like super. It's like she was selfish in my view. Like
Mhm.
everything, not in a bad way. She wanted to do things for herself, and you see this with twins.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're very close. Sometimes they don't want to be
Yeah.
the same person. And OSHA was definitely like wanted to get away. She wanted to join the Jedi. She wanted to do all this stuff. And even towards the end, when she found out her sister was alive, she's still going to arrest her. And she's the good guy, right? And then her
yeah,
sister, who's trying to burn the place down, I'm going to kill you. But all of it's driven by her love of family, kind of like Anakin to me. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't surprised that by the end they flipped places, because I felt like their motivations kind of drove them to the opposite spectrum of where they started, at least
yeah.
in our,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought May's dark side, Osha's light side when it starts, but they felt like their
Yeah.
motivations drove them into the opposite directions. And I don't know.
It's like they passed each other, didn't they, as they crossed? Like I think it was episode 5 was
Yeah.
a turning point. So they literally started one end of being really good, one end being really bad, or light and
Mhm.
dark. And as they got closer and closer, they sort of bypassed each other and carried on
Yeah.
going.
Could it
Yeah, I don't know.
also be, sort of a statement on a little bit of nature versus nurture, but also like that we all have this full spectrum of emotions inside of us,
Yeah,
and that nature versus nurture, like the things that we have endured, like what was the line that Jackie had said? It was like, you're not defined by what happens to you, but what you survive, or something like that, right?
Oh,
yeah,
Like
that's right.
that's a prism that then like helps to focus, helps to highlight certain aspects of our personalities, certain, like I'm a really bubbly social person, but I also have a pretty like cynical dark side sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, and it just
yeah,
depends
yeah,
on like what's focusing those emotions. And I think that that's an interesting, because they are the same person as what they're saying, right? And I
Yeah.
was, because I actually just rewatched the whole thing after you guys invited me to come back on.
Nice.
I was like, I'm sure I've missed something, but that was one thing that I thought about these two watching, and like you said, Jack, they kind of cross, right? And I was
Yeah.
almost like, oh wow, it's almost like, it's also almost like the sun and the moon, right? Like the sun shining
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
certain part, certain side, depending, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. That's what
Yeah,
I thought it was
Yeah.
really fascinating.
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I kind of always think about that tale, the two wolves. Which one you feed is which one
Yes.
you're going to be, and so yeah, so that's obviously they're the kind of the main story behind this. I mean, I know everyone thought it was Soul's story, but let's talk about the Jedi,
Mm.
right? And this is what really has got a lot of people, like especially my age, up in arms because our heroes are flawed.
Mhm.
What did we
Yeah.
think of the Jedi Order? What did we think of the Jedi in this? Like the whole
Mm,
story, from Soul. Did we buy it? Did we not buy it? Did we, what are we thinking about the
Mm.
Jedi here in, 100 years before the Phantom Menace kicks in? Do we believe the transition to the Phantom Menace as well? It's like, is this so?
Right.
Jack, what do you think?
yeah, it's for me the Jedi weren't brilliant, but I appreciate that because of what they've been through, as in the Nihil. So they've sort of come to that stage, or you think they've come to that stage now of their story where they're starting to unwind, relax, sort of let the hair down, so to speak, unless you're Vanessa Rowe. But where they're at now is obviously they've got so many Jedi at this point. A lot of them are I don't want to say incompetent, but not as good as they would be if they were at war or at conflict, because they're not really doing a great deal, I don't think, during this time. They are quite, again, not ignorant, but they're up there. They know, that they're the power of the galaxy, so to speak. There's a couple of Jedi that I just couldn't stand again, but that's not so much the actor. I don't think. I think the actual character of the Jedi are purposely made that way. I don't think it's a flaw of the show either, not in particular. But the Jedi that really shone, again, I'm not going to go into the actors just yet, are the ones like Master Soul. You could see his personality changing throughout of it. Yord, again, all the, I'm going to say that the main headline Jedi, they really did have their own personality, their own quirks, their own skills, which they brought to the show, and you could see everything through it. So as always, the Jedi are their own worst enemy. If there's more
Hmm.
than 10 of them, definitely. They work a lot better in numbers of 2 or 1. But yeah, in terms of the Jedi as a whole, yeah, flawed, but not flawed because their acting or anything was bad. Flawed because obviously they're letting the hair down. That's my perception of things coming from the High Republic stuff.
Yeah.
What about you, Kate?
Yeah.
How do you see the Jedi?
Oh man. Yeah, it was definitely because, I mean, I think I mentioned this last time that as an adult, I've already kind of looked at the Jedi and been like, mm, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if I really fall in line with that personally. You know what I mean? And then this was a little bit more of that, like, ooh, you made that
yeah,
decision. Ooh, not what I would have done. Like kind of
yeah,
like, and then I am so interested in Soul because I think, like you mentioned, like just the gradient that we saw in that character. I'm still not sure why he made the decisions he did. I'm really curious,
yeah,
and I really want a season 2 or at least some sort of spin-off that explains what why did he suddenly feel the need to interfere in this situation?
yeah,
Because like his argument of like, well, I wanted the girls to be safe and they weren't treating them like children. I'm like, but do Jedi treat younglings like children? Like, do
yeah,
they? So
I mean,
I have a lot of little theories in the back of my head that I'm just like, I wonder if it was this, I wonder if it was that. But I loved the like exploring the flaws of these characters. And like you said, some people aren't, it isn't sitting well with some people that their heroes are suddenly being seen in a different light, but there's always two sides to every story. um and I think
yeah,
I've come to the point as an adult where I recognize that a lot in history. And then also, like, it is kind of a fascinating examination of, I'm going to say, human nature, even though they're not all
yeah,
humans,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
yeah,
Like, it's conflict and it's interesting. So I like the Jedi, but and like you said, Jack, I do think that it was a period where they were kind of up on this pedestal, right? And like even Senator
yeah,
Rancorn was saying that they're like this massive system of unchecked power posing as a religious, posing as a religion. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of burn, but kind of maybe accurate.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a history teacher, I like seeing the other side of things.
Yeah.
I'm always curious when like we get exchange students from Germany or other places. Like, well, how do you teach this event?
Yeah.
How do you teach this event? I want to
Yeah.
see how it differs. And I think and people aren't willing to. It's not a. It's not. It's not to say that everyone in the Jedi Order is flawed. Like they're doing the best that they can, and that's like you
Yeah.
said, like humankind. They want to do the best they can, but they make
Yeah.
mistakes. Like
Yeah.
I do think that this feeds into my theory about the Jedi really can't control their emotions. Like their emotions
Yeah.
always control them, and the fact that we kind of buy that as kids makes sense because we're
Mm-hmm.
naive. But
Mm-hmm.
as adults, full well like how hard it is to you have to train yourself to
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
realistically, I enjoyed
Right.
this. I And we'll get into when we get to characters and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple things I was like, oh, but as long as they explain it later
Mm-hmm.
on,
Yeah.
I think I'll
Yeah.
be fine with. And if I'm not fine with it, who cares? It is what it
Yeah.
is, right? There's nothing I can be like, wow, this isn't my Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah.
Explaining it, but yeah, I like to see this. I like the fact that people are challenging those ideas, and we've seen snippets of this. And I don't know why people are so angry about it before, but we have seen snippets of people not like the Jedi. We've seen them
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you're taking my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Yeah.
I could see some
Yeah.
cultures being like thinking it's great, like the Togruta, like when they took Ahsoka, it was like
Mm-hmm.
this was an honor. But I mean, I don't have kids, but if I did, I'm not going to let
Mm-hmm.
someone take them away from me, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it like happily.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. I like to see the Force being used in different ways, and like you said too,
Yeah.
like they're one governing body. What gives them the right to say, this is the only way to do it. Like we
Yeah.
teach the Reformation in class, and I just think that was probably one of her biggest motivations was like the
Yeah.
Catholic Church in the 1500s. So I don't know how
Right.
you get around that, but
Right.
it ended up kind of good. So yeah, I liked it. Do I want to see a show where the Jedi make good decisions? Yes, but I also like the fact that we got to see them kind of mess up a little bit. So, and
There's more drama when you don't make the right decisions.
yeah, and it's
Like,
impossible to always make the right
That's
decisions.
Star Wars for you, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not about Jedi versus Sith. It's not about light versus dark. That's not what defines people. It's the decisions. It's easy to make the wrong decisions. It's easy to go
Mm-hmm.
choose the easy option all the time.
Yeah.
yeah, sure. The politics, because that kind of
Yeah.
blends right into this. You talked about Raincourt, Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the politics coming into early, into this? And I talked to some
Yeah.
guy. Well, I talked to some guy. I kind of was mean to him on the internet because he's like, George never put politics into his Star Wars, and I was like, what in the
Wait.
hell? Is
Have you
happening?
seen episodes 1, 2, and 3?
It's like seen
Just
any of
checking.
his movies. So, but yeah. So, what did you think about the politics? Does it line up for you? Because I know the idea of this is leading us to the Phantom Menace. So, did
Yeah.
this work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it did, and I haven't read. Okay, so I'm halfway through the first book of the High Republic series. Unfortunately, I haven't finished it still. Um,
Yeah.
but I think, and actually, my book club is actually we're meeting in a couple hours. We are reading The Living Force right now, so we're
Oh,
like
that's a good
about
one.
2/3
Great
away.
book.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and it is like I like that it's like a year before episode 1, so it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
kind of like exploring that, like what's going on with the Jedi before then. So I think obviously at this point in time the Jedi are interwoven with the Republic, right? Like Billy and I were just
Yeah.
talking about this because we're talking about Vernestra's Senate gowns because like I loved those were amazing. By the way, very 15th century. Anyway, so like but like that she had like the emblems on like kind of the cloak that she had
Yeah.
integrated into the outfit. And he was like, I've looked this up and I think they have the same emblem. And I haven't fact checked that at all. But it seems like they were so ingrained in the government at that time that it
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense that like we start to see this unraveling and like why did they become because I very much saw them more as I feel like they were watching that transition between they felt very much like knights out on an adventure, like Camelot, to
Yeah.
space funks, which is what I very much feel like they are in episodes 1, 2, and 3, right? They're in like those brown robes. They all look the same. It's very much this pared down, like we meditate a
Yeah.
lot, all this stuff, right? So I think it's interesting, like that story of like, well, how'd you get from here to here? So, and obviously politics, right?
And they've all
Yeah.
got the robes, like you say. Each Jedi's got certain little differences on
Yeah.
their costumes. And one of the things as
Mhm.
well you talk about now with the costumes as well is the very last episode where Vanessa Rose in with all the council members, not the council members, the
Mhm.
Senate members.
Mhm.
Every single one of them is completely different to the person next to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
great. Yeah, for me, the quick answer, I think it lines up perfectly with where they're headed
Mhm.
for the Phantom Menace, and I have some theories, I think,
Okay.
about Rowan
Yeah.
Court personally and Plagueis, but
Yeah.
we'll get.
Yeah.
Um,
I was wondering.
yeah, so the Virgins, like that storyline, how do we
Yes.
feel? The Virgins and Plagueis, we can kind of mush these together because I don't think we got a lot of answers on either one.
Yeah.
How do we
No.
feel about those?
The Virgins, I think, similar to the Anakin stuff and the twin stuff for me, I'm baffled. I sort of get what it is, as in, well, I say I get what it is, but I've sort of convinced myself what it is. So I could be completely wrong here. But in my mind, I think the Virgins is where there's been some sort of cataclysmic event or something like a large scale event. And what I've got in my mind is it's opened like a rift or a portal that is the Virgins or has affected someone or something like Acolyte. It's like the Simpsons when they get in the nuclear power plant and have the radiation glowing. That's what it is in my head. So the Virgins is like radiation or a portal opening. That's because it's so confusing for me. And Plagueis is quality. I mean, I've just finished at the same time finished the Acolyte, the Plagueis book,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think because I enjoyed the Acolyte so much is also down to me reading this book perhaps as well, because it's opened my mind more to actually what's going on and why Plagueis is only coming out his shell or coming out in episode 8, why he wouldn't be heavily involved. But I've got lots of theories on him in a minute. But yeah, the Plagueis stuff I'm more than happy with. I'm more than happy that he only appeared once. But yeah, that's my take on it anyway. What about you, Kate?
Yeah, so I've actually convinced myself of very much a similar thing because they
Nice.
do allude to this like, well, this virgins, this power, right? And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so they haven't given us too many answers. I'm hoping for a season 2, or like I said, some sort of other series that somehow ties into this. And I do hope that they tell us a little bit more about what a virgins is, and I think they will because they
Yeah.
what was the one? There was something that they mentioned. Shoot, there was something that was from a different series or different movie that they mentioned in this one, and I'm like, oh, they're using that
About
term.
about the books, the event.
Maybe, yeah. There was something else, and I was like, oh, they just said that in some other series or something, and I was like, oh, I think they will.
Yeah.
Like they're carrying these themes and they're carrying these little terms, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, I convinced myself that it was also something had happened, whether it was like created by the witches was one thing I was thinking,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
maybe like they did their whole like coven power surge thing and were able to create this, and that's why suddenly this planet burst back to life as
Yeah.
they were
Yeah. Yeah.
creating life. It made sense to me. So I think it was like kind of very subtle, but that's what I'm telling myself is the truth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like
It's like
Plagueis,
we've both convinced each other, or sorry, not
yeah.
convinced each other. But you've had to convince yourself, haven't you? Like me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it kind of and it makes sense. And if it ends up being something else, then that's fine because I realize that fan theories that happens a
Yeah.
lot,
I'm the
right?
same.
We all are like, I haven't figured it out. And we're all like, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then they come in, they're like, no, it's this. And you're like, darn it.
Yeah. I
But
was close,
yeah,
but
I know it's close. But yeah, it's our little like head canon, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, and Blake is like I think is something that everyone keeps wanting. And
Mm.
I'm okay that they're kind of stringing it along a little bit like, ooh, but who is that in the shadows? Ooh, but like, like there's always something else going on, which in the real world there is, right? There's always
Oh
like
yeah,
you're
100%.
focused on this one little thing of these like 5 people's lives, but there's all sorts of stuff going on around them, and I'm fine with that. So
Yeah.
I hope there's a season 2 because I want this all to tie in a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
Yeah.
it needs to after that last
I know,
episode.
right?
Yeah. I have a question. I still don't understand the Virgins. I think it's like you kind of something with the Force. It shows up when it needs to. But
Yeah.
is the Bunta tree the Virgins, or is that pit the Virgins,
Oh,
Good question.
yeah.
Maybe
or
one's the
is it
light and one's the
light
dark.
side, the dark side? Like I wonder.
Yeah.
Was made in OSHA drawn to that tree because of that
Mhm.
reason? Like a life force
Right.
Yeah.
tree or a force tree. I liked it. I like the idea. I like them including stuff that doesn't, everyone's talking about them ruining canon, which hopefully we'll have time to talk about. But um, I don't think slipping like this virgin thing in here and the things about the force. And I mean, that's what I don't understand is everybody wants more stuff about
Yeah.
Star Wars, but then when we get it, they throw a big giant hissy fit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I thought Plagueis was cool. I thought maybe it should have been Tenebrous at this point,
Okay.
uh, but I don't care. It's whatever. I just like the fact that there's another baddie sitting there just
Yeah.
waiting. The
A proper
potential for
baddie.
that is phenomenal, and I loved it. So I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, and I couldn't believe it came so early. I did read an article today that was supposed to be the end scene, like it was going to
Yeah.
Oh,
instead of Yoda.
okay.
They were
Yeah.
going to flip some things, and Leslie Headland had talked about it somewhere. I think maybe it was
Yeah.
on StarWarsNews.net or whatever.
Okay.
But there are some decisions they have to make, and I know people are like, "Oh, yeah, they made the wrong decision." You make a
Yeah.
show, and then you deal with the criticism
Yeah,
afterward.
absolutely. There's a million perspectives. And I think I had mentioned with you is that the kind of the pacing of the episodes and like the order of them reminds me very much of Firefly, where it was like the actual pilot of that show didn't air until like much later in the season, in that one season, right? And so I do often wonder about flipping episodes around in shows and how that
I
would feel
literally said
different.
this yesterday, and I've stuck by it. I firmly believe that you could have episodes 3 and 7, the flashback ones, as episodes 1 and 2, and then
Yeah.
watch it whatever episode you want, as long as you finish obviously episode 8.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that you can do that, and I honestly think as well. Leslie Headland is so clever, and the team are so clever in what they've done and what they've made, and with the last episode as well. It makes people want more,
Mhm.
regardless if the first 7
Mhm.
episodes are that bad and you think it's that much trash. People are going to want season 2 because people want answers. And
Yeah.
in classic Star Wars way, we've got more Star Wars questions than we have Star Wars answers.
Mhm.
Well,
Totally.
that's a good segue. We're going to jump over. We're going to kind of dive into that real quick, and we'll come back to characters and acting. Let's talk about the pacing, the episode length, and the structure quickly. For
Yeah.
me, I want more. I don't
Yeah.
believe there's such a thing as if you give me Star Wars, I will be exhausted by it. Like if it's good, that's a
Yeah.
good story. Like I nothing makes me angry. People are talking about like Star Wars fatigue. Like how? I
Mhm.
mean, I'm overwhelmed sometimes with the High Republic and things like that and trying to read all
Yeah.
this and all that. But what did we think about episode length, the structure? I mean, you guys kind of both talked about the structure
Yeah.
and the order, the pacing of the episodes. Um, should it all be dropped at once? Would that help
Mhm.
a show like this? Like I thought, like for Andor, if they would have dropped like the 3 episode arcs, it may have
Mhm.
made it. Those were kind of slow, and people
Mm.
apparently hate letting stories develop. It seems like.
Mhm.
Um,
Instant gratification, that's what we want.
or is it fine the way it is, and people just need to chill? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, So, what do you guys think about those things? Like, just talk
Yeah.
about the episodes themselves. Um,
Yeah. Well, so like I said, I mean, I was just finishing up the last episode when I logged in to talk to you guys because I went back and I was like, I know I missed stuff. And I'm also the type of person that like forgets these little details. And someone's like, well, what about this? I'm like,
Yeah. I'm
oh
saying.
yeah, I forgot about that. So I like went back and rewatched it. And I even said to my husband, I was like, I do see where maybe if they had dropped larger chunks or the whole thing, maybe people who need those answers right away, who need to make those connections, who can't let like kind of threads just
Mm.
hang for a bit, they might have been happier. I don't think that means that they needed to do it, but I just see where maybe some people would have been happier. But I mean, like I was born in the '80s. I'm used to like you watched your show once a week, and if you missed 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, you you missed that episode. You know what I mean? And you were like, "But what happened? Oh my gosh!" Um, yeah, the instant gratification of our lives these days
I'm
is.
so glad you said that. So I've never been in the dark times. 'Cause I'm a '90s kid. So
Oh
for
my
me,
gosh.
Star Wars
Okay.
I've always had it coming in droves. So yeah,
Okay.
I think it comes down
Yeah,
to the generational thing as well, because
it could.
people will get something so often, and they expect it again and again and again and
Yeah.
again. Whereas obviously, like
Yeah.
you mentioned there, you've got yourself from the 80s, and Jim is from nearly the 30s. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you got the dark times of, you're not getting a lot of Star Wars all the
Yeah.
time. Um,
Totally.
and then the length, episode length, again, it all depends, because there's a big difference between movies and
Mhm.
TV live action, because in this TV series, in any TV series, you've got to get to know the characters, whereas in movies, it's just chucked at you, quick time, and it's a case of you either like the character or you don't. That's it. There's never no in between, or you can't wait to the next one then decide if you like them to a degree.
Yeah.
And we spoke about it the other day, didn't we, Jimmy? Like Anakin Skywalker is a perfect example, like from the Phantom Menace. People loved him because of pod racing and essentially blowing up a Trade Federation ship, right? But if it was like a TV series, I'm pretty certain a lot of people would get very bored of Anakin very quickly,
Mm.
because there's not a fat lot a 10-year-old kid could do. But then again, he did win a pod race and blow up a battle station. But you see what I'm going with that, it's all
Yeah.
about the timing. Structure and order we've already spoke about, and the pacing. To be honest, Kate, I'd like to hear your opinion. Do you think you've enjoyed it more because you've binged it all in one go?
Yeah, you know what? There were several times that I felt a little jarred by how the episode ended.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
and then when I went back and rewatched it, and I even made, guys, I have a notebook. I made notes. I'm such a nerd. But I was like, wow, if they had taken that little end thing that they used as a cliffhanger and just actually
yeah,
tacked it on to the next episode, I think it would have flowed just a little better, and you still would have had something of a
yeah,
cliffhanger. But yeah, like editing, like I think a lot that happens in a show and in a movie is up to the editing, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
decisions were made. That's fine. Yeah, I liked it, and then I kind of was like, okay. And then I really liked it at the end. And so I think
yeah,
that, yeah, if people are out there that are like, oh, I'm hearing all these mixed reviews, I say go down, like take a Saturday, watch it. I think you might like
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. No, 100%. And one more thing on that, sorry, Jimmy, as well, is
Fine.
different people have directed different episodes as well.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
in a way, they've got to stop. That's like their time limit, or they've got to stop it because the next director might have a completely different view,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
or
tough.
not
Yeah.
change it completely, but start off differently as well. What
Yeah.
do you reckon, Jimmy?
Yeah, I like the fact that they bring different viewpoints and stuff, and they have their showrunner that kind of keeps everything going in a certain way. But
Yeah,
my biggest issues were like episodes 4 and 5. That should have been one episode. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was a
yeah,
waste. That cliffhanger. I mean, that episode 4 is it's kind of dull. Like it is. It's not. There's not a lot that happens, and of course, right as it. I mean, there's a lot of good. When I say dull, there's no action, and of course, immediately
yeah,
picking up in episode 5, you got 25 minutes of action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of good quotable Jedi, like what you said about Jackie's quotes about becoming, witnessing someone become part of the, and we didn't know she was foreshadowing what was about to
Mm-hmm.
happen. But, um, and then of course, 3 and 7 were a bit bonkers, I thought.
yeah,
I don't know how I feel about, 2 full episodes of seeing. I like the idea of seeing it in different ways. I feel like they could have probably done it differently
Okay.
somehow.
yeah,
We would have gotten more story. But again, I'm not making shows. I don't know. I just
yeah,
there's little things here and there that I just think could have been tweaked. Things that I've seen in other shows or way other people have handled stuff. But
yeah,
again, it's fine. I won a second season, so it wasn't that bad
Mm-hmm.
apparently.
Mm-hmm.
In my
Right.
viewpoint. So um, yeah, I mean that's really it. So let's talk about the characters and some of the acting. All right, we got two
yes.
categories. We got your favorite characters and we got your least favorite characters, and any issues with like the acting or anything like that. We'll go with favorite first,
Yeah.
and then so do you guys? I mean, do you have a Mount Rushmore of characters from this,
Oh
or
man.
yeah, this is a tough
There's a
question. I
few.
Yeah.
think we
Right.
could
It is very.
probably do an entire episode on this question, so
Yeah.
we can just do a brief, overview and
Yeah.
hit a few more
So
things.
so just I think short and short for me. Then I've got two probably joint favourites. It'd be Cormier, obviously for obvious reason. Magnificent is excellent.
Those biceps.
I've got three. Just thought of another one, but yeah, Saw. JJ again, incredible, but probably one that most people might not have. For me, would be Daphne Keane Jackie. There was something about Jackie that drew me straight in. Um, I found her character very, very interesting. And the only issue really with acting, and it's probably my least favourite, again, might not be popular, would be Venestra Rowe to a degree, because I felt she was very wooden and a bit stiff in some of the scenes. But again, I think that might have been a portrayal of what she's been through in the character, or what they're building up. But to me, it just seemed a bit strange. Didn't quite flow or seem natural to me. It seemed a bit forced. And then the only other honourable, dishonourable mention is going to be obviously Nog. Oh God.
Mog.
Mog, not Nog, yeah, Mog.
So,
Yeah,
no.
so wish he'd have got down there and battle come here, because, yeah. But anyway,
It would have been one of the red shirts.
yeah, get him,
So,
boys.
Kate,
Yeah,
what do
what
you
about
think?
you, Kate?
Yeah, well, Vernestra was driving me kind of crazy because of that
Yeah.
really wooden, and I didn't think it was so much the actress. I thought it was they were trying to portray, like you said, like some sort of like where she's been coming from, like you said, like kind of the weight
Yeah.
on her shoulders or something, but she did seem very stiff for the longest time. I liked her better by the end. And somebody in my book club had mentioned that they were really bummed because they know the character from the books and really loved the character and were like expecting more
Yeah.
out of that. And so that one, she took me out a little bit at the beginning. Was
Yeah.
probably my least favorite of the main people. Um, my favorite, I mean, like I really loved the performance uh of Amanda. Now I'm blanking on her last name. Was it Stenberg?
Sternberg.
Yeah,
Stenberg.
for May and Osha. I just thought that I liked seeing the range of emotions. I thought she was amazing. I
Yeah.
love her. I love those two as Star Wars characters. Um, Really, my number one favorite of the whole thing though is Mother Anastasia. I'm kind of in love with her. Like I would join her
Nice.
coven. Like I just thought she was like so powerful in just the couple episodes that she's in. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you're amazing. And I thought part of that was the costuming. I'm really in love with that costuming.
Yeah.
I just wow, she's amazing. And then obviously like Chimera, I think so. I talk about how much I hate Kylo Ren. Have I told you guys that? I hate Kylo Ren because he's a really good bad guy. So Adam Driver did an amazing job, I think, with him. And Chimera is up there where I'm like, oh, you are a manipulative
Yeah. Yeah.
little
Yes,
so and so, like, and you're really good at it. And yeah. So, and I think that he is bringing a lot of range to that character. He's not
Yeah.
just bad. He's not just manipulative. He's like, there's a few other things under the surface that he's bringing that I think for acting,
Yeah.
I think he wins my acting like award. If I had one, I'm giving it to him. So
Nice.
right.
What
Yeah.
about you, Jimmy? I'd have had you down as Amanda Stenberg as well, but
Well, I will be honest with her. Some of her acting threw me a little bit. I didn't think she didn't nail a few things. I felt like
yeah.
she got better as the show went on. I thought she was better as May than she was at OSHA a couple times. Like,
mhm.
but I can't imagine trying to like do what she's
Be
doing.
two
Like,
people, right?
like I can barely be myself. So, um, like, but I did enjoy her characters. Like, I liked them. I just thought every once in a while that some of the acting it fell a little flat for me. But
Yeah.
again, I keep saying these. I still want a season 2. I want to see what's going on
Yeah.
with those stories.
100% we do.
Chimera and Soul, of course, those two actors are those characters and the actors that portrayed them knocked it out of the park. I loved them. I am still recovering from Jackie though. Like
Mhm.
my love for Ahsoka, I felt like it just kind of transferred over to Jackie because she was like the next Ahsoka, and I really
Yeah.
thought, like, I thought she'd be the only one who survived or something crazy,
Yeah.
And then episode 5 happened, and I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I was, what? I mean,
I
I
wasn't
would,
ready
Right in
for
the
episode
feels.
5. It shocked me. I was
yeah,
not expecting any of that.
we got on live to record right after that, and I didn't think it was probably the worst episode we did because I was just
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. I was like,
Yeah.
we sat upstairs, my wife and my friend Tim who comes over to watch him, and it was no one said anything. We were just like, what the like
Yeah.
what just happened? That was awesome though because you think about it,
Yeah.
like nobody expected that. It was like the Red Wedding kind of for
Mhm.
Game of Thrones fans.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, I really love them. The only real issue I had character wise is Basil. What in the hell was that thing
Uh,
doing?
You're not a Basil fan, huh?
I don't
Uh,
understand. I love the creature. I love the character. I don't understand what it was doing 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right?
same.
Like, I just like, what was its motivations? And I like the fact that it didn't speak basic. I like that aspect of it. I
Yeah.
don't think everyone
Hmm.
should have to speak basic or whatever, so we
Mm-hmm.
can understand it. But I felt like they dropped it a little bit on not understanding exactly what was happening. Because I mean, one episode prior, he's kung fu fighting May and
Mm-hmm.
spraying stuff in her eye, and then the next minute, it looks like he's trying to save May.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, when he's
for
taking out the
There's
me,
an
wires.
interesting flip.
yeah, it was weird to me, and I don't know. I thought super cute. I understand, they're gonna sell lots of Basil toys and
Yeah.
Funko Pops and stuffed animals at Disneyland and everything
Yeah.
like that, but that was a little weird to me. I really didn't understand, like, what's this thing's motivation, you
Yeah.
know?
I feel
Uh,
like there
Yeah.
must have been some scene that was cut where he found some sort of information or he overheard some sort of information is what I'm telling myself, right?
yeah,
And
I
like,
mean,
was
It's a
there
good
that
shout.
something that
It's a
he
good
witnessed
shout.
that made him change his mind? Very
yeah,
curious.
Mm.
But you're right. Like that was a big question
that
mark.
was Yeah, that was, I mean, for me though, but I mean, I thought everyone was pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
Vernestra, like, I am the same
Yeah.
place as your friend. We're actually going to do an episode for Nestra from the books, from Nestra from the show. What
Nice.
happens in that middle 100 years? Because I need some
Yeah.
therapy on Vernestra Rowe because she is one of my favorite
Okay.
um, Jedi from the High Republic, and I say that she showed signs of being the way she is because she does hide a lot of things in the
Okay.
books.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
secretive. She's a loner. She does a lot of different things where after I got over my initial, like, that's not my Vernestra,
Mhm.
um, I was like, okay, well, actually, if you think about her character, she does a lot of these things
Okay.
that are
Mm.
suspect. But she does a lot of things that
Yeah.
all the Jedi do. They don't tell people the truth because they're afraid of how they're going to be judged, and
Mhm.
all the things that kind of drive her motivation. But
Yeah.
I do see the seeds planted there. Something major's got to happen in the last book for the High Republic, the adult novel that comes out next year. So they're going to really have to stick the landing on that book because there's a lot of things
Okay.
that tie up. Yeah, so Vanestra was. I need to see more. Like, I need the season two. Like I
Mhm.
said, like, if I get a season two, my rating goes up for season one.
Okay.
Kind of.
That makes
So,
sense.
but let me see where we're at here because we are kind of cutting it close.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to be concerned about Star Wars? We got the same level of hate for The Last Jedi. Now, for Jack and I,
Mm.
I'm in it way more than I was before I saw The Last Jedi. I left there. I'm like, I don't know if I like that or not. I worked through it on my own. Now we're podcasting and we're in it. And I mean, Jack knows this. There's been a couple times where I'm like, dude, I'm like depressed by the stuff people were saying about this show. Like, I get not
Yeah.
Okay.
liking it, but some of the stuff that's being said and the hate and everything. Should we be concerned for Star
Yeah.
Wars? Is Disney doing a good enough job with the IP?
Mm. Yeah.
I think for Disney, they're doing a good enough job if they're earning the money that they're after. That's all Disney care about. Let's face facts. It's money.
Yeah.
Um, Reasons to be concerned for Star Wars. Too much of a good thing can be bad for anybody. And like I was joking around about the dark times, but I think we do need to go back to sort of waiting a few years, some from the big screen. I'm not saying wait a few years for live action, but we have been absolutely blessed and privileged in the past couple of years with what we've had from 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. We've had Ahsoka, The Acolyte, Bad Batch. How many seasons that we had? 3 of those off the top of my head.
Yeah, three.
What else have we had?
New animated series was just announced,
Mhm.
or not announced, but the
Yeah,
cast
Visions.
hiring
We've had
for
Star
it.
Wars Visions,
Mhm.
Tales of the Empire. Like we're getting so much Star Wars as well.
Mhm.
But that's the thing, man. You love what you love, respect what you don't, and that's just get on with it in that way.
Yeah. I think I think it's amazing that there's something for everyone. And as long as people accept that not everything is going to be their favorite, and that's not
Yeah.
totally on Disney, that's on each individual, right? Which is
Yes.
hard to do, obviously. But I do love, and like I know for some stupid reason the diversity gets so much pushback and it's like, I don't know where you live, honey, but like it's a big world with a lot of different shapes, sizes, colors, and every other
Yeah.
thing out there. So why the galaxy wouldn't look like that? Doesn't make any sense. And so I love that they are creating more and more that has more and more for everybody, right? Like, especially from a cosplayer standpoint, right? Like that there are kids that can go to the theater and be like, oh my gosh, I look like OSHA. This is amazing, right? And like that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if like I don't know if I think that there's an overall saturation level. I think everyone has their own level that is,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of fell out of watching Marvel because there was so much of it, but I'm also not that much of a superhero person. So as
Yeah.
long as they keep making stuff that's not just about the Jedi, which I love the Jedi. Every time there was a lightsaber fight in this show, I got little tingles. When you just listen to the sound of a
Yeah.
lightsaber,
Yeah.
it
Oh
brings
yeah.
back really great memories, right? And so don't mean to bash the Jedi in that way, but like as an adult, I think other stories are more interesting. So as long as they're still making other
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff, I'm still going to be interested too. So I don't know if I have an answer,
No, it's
but
fine. I mean, I'm not sure there is an answer. I
yeah,
mean, there's a person.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I I hate seeing it. I go through ups and downs. I never argue as Explore the Force. I always argue as myself in these different Facebook group chats because I don't want to speak
hmm,
for Jack, anyone who's associated
yeah,
with our with us. But I do get frustrated with what's happening as a high school teacher. I'm all about the kids,
yeah,
and I want them to like Star Wars, and they're gonna like it more if they see someone that looks like them, or they see
Yeah.
like, hey, there's gay characters and there's whatever. I'm like, yeah, like look, Star
hmm,
Wars is for everybody, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
I think Disney's. I mean, I don't know how anyone would do better than what they're doing. I mean, everyone's yelling and screaming, but they're making, like
hmm,
Jack said. I mean, and the
yeah,
business side of things, it looks like they're doing fine. I do wish that we could
mm,
get some numbers to really honestly know. Like, because,
Yeah. I
as
think. I
for
think we
us, we're
will.
like, well, is it the most hated Star Wars? Because to
yeah,
me, it feels like everyone who hates it is still watching it. So the numbers have got to be high, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That's a good
And
point. Like, how do they know it's so bad if they're not watching it?
these
Exactly. Week in,
posts of
week
these
out.
people, and they're like, this is the least watched show in Disney. I'm like, how do you know this?
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you know?
You know,
Nobody
and like
has.
I feel like because Andor had such a kind of a not like a reaction, but almost like a lack of a reaction, right? Um,
Yeah.
It was weird for
and it was
Andor. It
still
was like,
so good. And
yeah,
and I mean, we can talk about Andor sometime. Like, I think there's a whole bunch of things about the fact that people didn't understand going into it really what it was going to be. Um, but I don't know. Like, this just seems like it's something that can be big and exciting, and they could make a big deal about it. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it's the least watched. I don't know.
yeah. I
Yeah. I
mean, I
don't
don't
think
think
it
we'll
is.
ever find out. I did think that there were supposed to be some changes after the writers and actors strike that was
Mhm.
because that's some of the stuff that the industry was hiding from everybody, including them,
Right.
and
Mm.
thought maybe we'd have more access to. But we'll see. Maybe that
Mhm.
doesn't come into effect until like 2025 or something.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah. So I got three questions. I'm going to ask one, and we're just yes or no answer. Do you want a season two, Kate?
Yes.
Jack, do you want a season two?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Will it happen, Kate?
Who knows? My crystal ball.
Yes. It will happen.
Yes.
I I hope it happens. I think this is a chance for. I mean, I think it might happen for the wrong reasons. I think that
Mhm.
like
Mm.
Kathleen Kennedy's gonna be like,
Let's get
complain all
him.
you want. Like it kind of. She does have an agenda.
Mhm.
Even my sister in law who loves Star Wars, she's like they kind of threw out too much at us at once. Like they should have
Mm.
like
Mm.
paced themselves
Sprung
on
it
changing.
along.
Yes, because I don't think anyone
Yeah.
has a problem with certain things that people complain about. But even when my sister in law is like, yeah, they just threw a lot of it at us. I think that Kathleen Kennedy will be like, here you go, here, and then it doesn't ever seem to me like this was ever planned to be one season. So who knows? Um, do you have any idea
Yeah.
what that looks
Yeah.
like? Season two, like where's the story?
God knows. God knows. I'm
Oh
hoping it goes
man.
towards Plagueis
I
a bit more,
know.
and it sort of leads into the Phantom Menace. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, could it be sort of a struggle because with the Sith, there's only supposed to be two, right? And
Yeah.
like if he's training an acolyte, then trying to take out the big guy,
All right, and
Yeah.
here's my last question to both of you. and we're going to have to wrap this up. But what is your biggest takeaway from this show? Like, what was either it could be the biggest theme to you, it could be the biggest moment to you. Like, when you think about the Acolyte, what do you think about? Like, what was the first thing that pops into your
It's a
head?
great question.
Wow.
I'm
I want
stumped
to
at the
run
minute,
away and
Kate. Help
become
me
a
out.
force switch. I'm already looking at fabric online. Yeah, I think seeing these other force users was exciting. They weren't Sith. I think that's really a fascinating that it's not black and white,
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know. What about you, Jimmy? I'm really stumped on this.
Man, I don't know if I have. I just like that it was a different story. Like, I think that it's nice that this isn't the prototypical Star Wars story about the Jedi. We're getting a
Yeah.
ton of that in High Republic. They're flawed in there. They're still doing these battles. I think maybe the High Republic's handling things a little bit better as far as showing flaws, but also showing the heroicism of those characters as well. Even though they are making mistakes, they're trying to fix them, and characters are, they're paying for their mistakes, or they're rebounding from them. But yeah, I just the fact that, like, different cultures, we got the thread now, we got these different things.
Yeah.
Like, I really, and I'm not a hippie or anything like that. Like, it's funny for me to be saying this stuff, but like, I just love how much they jammed into this and how much different stuff. So, I mean, that's for me. I mean, I love the lightsaber battles and all that stuff, but it's not like that theme. And it kind of comes back to that, who you going to feed, that's the
Yeah.
potential for going to the dark side and the light side. So I just thought it was, I don't know, people don't think it's very Star Warsy, but I thought it nailed it. So that's
Yeah.
kind of
I
what I
think for me
thought.
then, I'd probably finish up by saying, Star Wars away from the Skywalker stuff can and will work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's
I love
excellent.
that.
Excellent point. Yeah. So I have some other stuff, but we are kind of running out of time. Okay, we'll have to have you come back on. We can dive into some
That's fine.
canon
Yeah.
issues and like that, and
Sounds good. Oh my gosh.
before Andor season 2 comes, so we can recap Andor season 1. And
Yes.
but I want to thank you personally for coming back on. It was awesome to get to have you. Like
Absolutely.
I said, we will have links to where people can find you. We'll get that podcast in there. We'll get your Instagram page on there. So thank
Totally.
you again for coming
Yeah.
on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Before we sign out, Kate, we always have like a little saying that we say. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to find one. If you want to use May the Force preview, that's totally up to you. But for myself, then again, a plan is only as good as those that see it through.
Ooh,
What you got, Kate?
I like that. Oh man, I'm trying to think of that last quote that there was a quote that that I think it was Osha that said, like, to Chimera, she was like, the future isn't set, like,
Yes.
Nice.
yes,
All
Star
right.
Wars fans, remember that the future isn't set yet.
Awesome. And for all of us, we have spoken. We'll see you guys next week.